In 1956, the Suez Canal was blocked with ships, shutting off one of the most profitable waterways in the world. Egypt's president, Gamel Abdel Nasser, decided to block and take ownership of the Suez Canal. You may have thought it was always owned by Egypt as the canal runs through Egypt, but you'd be wrong. In 1869, the Suez Canal was built by Egyptian and French governments to make trade easier by creating a canal from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. Soon after, in 1875, the Egyptian government was forced to sell their share in the Suez Canal Company to the British government when they hit a financial crisis. Therefore, the Suez Canal Company was owned by the British and the French. It was an invaluable asset for the Western powers, giving them easy access to oil from the Middle East and a fast route to and from the Indian Ocean. This situation caused a lot of tension for decades, with a number of anti-colonial groups against the foreign ownership of the canal. A tipping point came when the US withdrew their offer to finance the Aswan High Dam. The US and Britain had promised to finance the dam to maintain or sway influence in the Middle East towards the US and not the Soviet Union during the Cold War. The US were unhappy with the friendship that Egypt had with the Soviet Union during the height of the Cold War and so pulled out. Nasser was furious, so if the West wouldn't pay for the dam, he would have to find a way to finance it himself. In 1956, Nasser took control of the Suez Canal Company. He figured that he could charge ships for passage through the Suez Canal, and the income from the tolls would pay for the dam in 5 years. Obviously, this made the British and the French angry, as it was owned by them. Negotiations with Nasser got them nowhere, and Nasser responded by saying that he would defend their independence to the last drop of blood. Britain, France and Israel put together a secret plan. Israel was unhappy because Egypt had also put a stop to the passage of Israel's ships through the Straits of Tiran. They wanted to take back control of the waterways and maybe even overthrow Nasser if possible. The plan was for Israel to invade Egypt and for Britain and France to follow and pretend that they were peacekeepers. They would pretend to be shocked by Israel and have a reason to send their troops in without seeming aggressive. They would also send in their troops to the Suez Canal. Egypt fought against the so-called peacekeepers and thousands were killed. The US were furious that the British would go behind their back to hatch this plan. They were worried that the actions of the British and the French would convince the Middle Eastern countries to side with the Soviet Union instead of the US. The US threatened economic sanctions on both the Brits and the French if they didn't withdraw their troops. Britain's Prime Minister Anthony Eden was under pressure from home with anti-war protests and his own political party questioning his decision to go to war. The Soviet Union, like the US, wanted to gain support from the Middle Eastern countries during the Cold War. So the leader of the Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev, publicised that he would begin a nuclear attack on Britain, France and Israel if they did not remove their troops from Egypt. If Britain and France refused, they would be victims of nuclear bombs without the support of the US and their allies. It would have allowed the Soviet Union to flex their military power to scare the US during the Cold War. It was widely believed that the threat of nuclear war forced a ceasefire in Egypt, with the ceasefire happening only 2 days after the start of the invasion. Nasser came out of the conflict as a hero of the Arab world, and the Soviet Union gained popularity in the Middle East. France and Britain were left with their reputations damaged, and it revealed the US and the Soviet Union to be the clear superpowers of the world. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.